that's CGI. Those are CGI skeletons. The other skeletons, the ones that the wolf and of George at the end of the film, those are actual models that are, stop motion animation in the style of Ray Harryhausen and Jason and the Argonauts. That's nice to have such technology still being employed. Yeah, we did talk about the egos, because they were fairly good about their egos, the actors. There was very little excessive ego in the film, funnily enough. Which was probably why it was such a pleasant experience and why everybody involved had happy memories of it, Not the audience, of course.
So it seems very cool that you had people like Jim Jarmusch in the film. I mean, did they just sort of drop in for the day? I mean, it seemed like maybe that was like done in the day.
Oh, he was complaining to Dick Rude. He was complaining to Dick Rude that he was really miserable, and and if we'd only give him a job in the film, he would give us jobs in return in his later movies and stuff. Oh, yeah, okay, So I'm still waiting, Jim. I need that job.
And then there's one more question here that someone had. Where is this location in the film? Was it made, or did you find it?
The location is in the south of Spain, in the desert of Tabernas, which is north of the city of Almeria, which is to the east of Malaga, and it's fantastic desert area, very atmospheric. They shot cowboy films there in the 60s. They shot obviously The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and A Few Dollars More, and many great Italian westerns. And we shot on the set of a Charles Bronson movie. And interestingly, it had been built for that film, and I had the impression from looking at the set that Bronson was quite short, because the doors were all undersized. The lintel of the door, if you were 6 feet, you'd have to bend to go through the door. So that was quite a clever piece of production design on the part of the people that made that film, because obviously it made Bronson look bigger. And actors often are quite, short of stature, not always, but a lot of actors are quite small and have large heads. And so the location fitted perfectly.
And I'm not sure that everyone's aware of this, maybe some of the hardcore Alex Cox fans are. You filmed a lot of the great movie Walker here in Tucson, the Ed Harris movie. What locations did you use here in Tucson?
We shot for 2 days in Tucson. We shot all of Peter Boyle's scenes here because Peter originally he didn't want to go to Nicaragua. He auditioned for the film and was interested in playing the part of Cornelius Vanderbilt, transportation magnate, but he was a bit concerned about going to Nicaragua. He thought maybe it would be too risky, and we shot Peter's scenes with another actor, but it didn't work out very well. He wasn't as good of an actor as Peter. So at the end of the first shoot, Lorenzo O'Brien, who was the producer, said, "Let's get Peter Boyle, and do it again." And we couldn't really go back down to Nicaragua because it was going to be so expensive. And of course, here was this magnificent western town which hadn't yet burned down, and there was the train and the railroad tracks, and so. Does anybody remember Benny Navarro? Did anybody know Benny? He was like a movie guy in town, and Benny wrangled. He went to all the Chinese restaurants in town and hired all the waiters, and we dressed them up in these sort of, Chinese railroad worker outfits. And we shot this big scene where they're building they're driving the Golden Spike and the Transcontinental Railroad. So it really gave an enormous amount of extra production value to that film, and it was a very wonderful experience because we got just tremendous stuff out of the couple of days that we shot here and had a wonderful time. And I stayed for 3 years. So it must have been good.
It's an amazing movie. Walker is just off the charts, great. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Cox? Maybe right here.
Well, I kept thinking when you kept killing the same guys over and over again about Robert Downey Sr.'s Greaser's Palace.
Yeah, and I don't think I've seen Greaser's Palace.
You should see it.
Then I have seen it since. Yeah, yeah, there's something of that. There's something of the last movie by Dennis Hopper in there as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't seen either. But obviously, we sort of got every film directors kind of maybe they get taken to these strange places, you know, and do these kind of weird western, quasi-westerns, you know. And, yeah, so I thought that the Greasy's Palace is very interesting, but I think the last movie actually is a great film.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think it's quite an important film, and I wish it could have more of a, you know, I think there must be some issue with the copyright ownership or something, because I can't believe that we haven't seen that film in such a
I agree.
long time.
Did you maintain a relationship with Hopper after Straight Film?
I wanted to have Dennis be in Repo Man. We had offered the part of Harry Dean Stanton's part to Dennis, but there was like a financial thing. You know, his agent wanted somewhat more than we could afford. But I really wanted to work with Dennis, and I tried to put him in Syd and Nancy as well, and then finally it worked out on this. And after we did Straight to Hell, he was very kind because he hired me as a writer on a film that he made in New Mexico called Backtrack or Catch Fire. And then he hired my wife as a writer on the final revisions of the film that he did after that called The Hotspot. So we had a very nice relationship with Dennis, and he was always very kind to us. He was a very good friend, and really of the kind of the mainstream people that I met in Los Angeles, he was by far the best and the most human. Really was. He was a great man. He was a great guy.
Are there any other questions? There's one right here.
Yes, speaking of Dennis Hopper, his character in the movie, his name is Farman, and that's the name of the guy that invented the gas chamber?
Well, it's the name of the company, IG Farben. IG, I think, is like incorporated or something, and so it's like there was IG Metal and IG Farben. And
yeah, I mean, I can understand why you named that because he's the capitalist of death.
Exactly, yeah, because he's the icon of capitalism and development.
Yeah.
You know.
But my question is, did anybody catch on to that at all? In all the years that this film has been out, has anybody ever come to you and said, "Oh, you named Dennis Hopper after"?
Stromer got it. You know, Stromer thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Or not so funny, but he got it. He knew what it was about. Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it, how people just glide over things. It's like in Repo Man. I mean, no one has ever commented on the John Wayne stuff in Repo Man. You know? No review has ever mentioned what we said about John Wayne.
Yeah.
You know, and in the same way, the IG Farben thing, it just kind of, just don't go there. Don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the best lines in the movie. I can't imagine people would not have commented on that. I say it all the time. Is there anyone else? Oh yeah, right there.
I just have a comment in that I was really struck by how the Wiener Man is kind of like a narco burrito, and it really strikes with what's going on in Mexico right now with the crazy violence. It just seems kind of timely.
Well, you know, that's interesting. That's interesting. Do you know the Tigres del Norte?
I heard of them.
They're a good band. They're like a norteño band. And what I've noticed is when I've been in Mexico, I've looked for Tigres, you know, because you can get everything in the black market, you know, so I go looking for Tigres CDs in the black market. You cannot find them. So it's sort of, I think, so the deal is, if anybody was to kind of do a Fayuca black market of the Tigres, instant death, you know. So it's sort of there's obviously something going on with the Tigres, and yet the Tigres can be played at a thing near where I live in Oregon called the Brit Festival. And it's very expensive to go to the Brit Festival. It's like between 30 and 60 or 90 bucks just to go and see a show, you know. But what the Tigres did was, when they played at the fairground in Medford, children free, you know. So you could be like a Mexican farm worker or just somebody who liked the Tigres, you know. And if you had 6 kids, you could take them all for nothing to the show. So whether or not there's a relationship between the Tigres and the black, you know, the kind of the black economy of narcos or something, I don't know. But I do think that the Tigres have certainly got a lot more humanity to them, you know. And maybe a lot of those narco corridos, you know, My friend Lorenzo O'Brien, who wrote and produced Highway Patrolman and produced Walker, he views the whole narco thing in a very different way. He's from Peru and he grew up in Mexico, and he just views it as the war of the poor against the rich. Because if you become a narco, it literally is the only way that you can rise in the current state of Mexican society is by joining the narcos, you know. And it was a disastrous situation, but thus it is, huh?
So you're obviously still a political person. You were involved in the Sandinista movement in the 80s.
Yeah, but look how that turned out. You know? I mean, this is a right-wing political party allied with the Vatican, which has made abortion illegal in every set of circumstances. You know? And the only other country in Latin America that's done that is El Salvador. Now, El Salvador has a left-wing government, and they haven't changed the law either. So, you learn, don't you? I mean, you think, oh, politics, yeah, we're going to get in there, and we're going to do the right thing, and the world is going to change. But you realize politicians have got their own agenda. And a lot of the time it's just remain in power. And if to remain in power, we have to make a deal with the Vatican, or if we have to bail out all these banks, you know, we'll do it, you know, as long as we keep our job. So I'm a little less enthusiastic about the political project than I was.
Yeah. Is there any more questions? Alex, yeah.
Are you going to Plush?
Yeah, I mean, is it far from Congress? Can I walk back after I'm totally dry?
Yeah. It's right at the street, actually.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely.
See you there.
Good.
Go to the after party at Plush. Alex will be there. Yeah. Wasn't there a question? Yeah, right.
I was going to ask, what do you think of Joe Arpaio and the way he's treating the Mexican people?
What do I think of who?
Joe Arpaio. Are you familiar with Joe Arpaio? I mean, not me.
The sheriff.
Joe Arpaio.
The sheriff of Maricopa.
Oh, this guy here!
Yeah.
The guy up in Phoenix.
Maricopa.
Yeah.
I am really puzzled about that because I don't see how it can be legal. Because people who are in the sheriff's jail haven't been convicted, right?
Some have.
Some have, some haven't. But my understanding was a lot of people who are in the sheriff's jail are awaiting trial. So if they're awaiting trial and they haven't been found guilty, how can they be subjected to such humiliations? I mean, I understand if you've been found guilty of a crime and you're a ward of the state, you know, and you're forced, you know, you're humiliated and forced to wear diapers and funny outfits and stuff, but, you know, and sew things. But a lot of the people in his jail haven't been convicted of anything. So how can they be? What legal justification is there for such brutalization and such humiliation? I don't understand it. Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, might be kind of wrapping up. Is there maybe a couple of last questions?
Here's one.
Yep.
Are they really drinking coffee the whole time?
Yeah. It's terrible. Yeah, there was a lot of coffee drunk on that set. The other thing was, though, because it's Spain, they're kind of different in terms of their view of sort of the work process and health and safety and all these things. So lunchtime, when you sit down at the table for lunch in Spain, or at least in those days, you know, white tablecloths, bottles of wine get put out. You know, you wouldn't see that on a Hollywood movie set. And then at the end of lunch, it's like, would you like a little brandy with your coffee? You know. So there was a certain relaxed Spanish quality to the whole process, you know, which was quite civilized.
Okay, so we maybe have one last question out there.
There's one over here.
Oh, yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. I have a technical question about the explosions at the end and the burning down of the building, because I always like to know how those things are filmed, and it was such a great scene. So first of all, did you actually literally burn one of the buildings on the Charles Bronson set? And how did you go about that? And also the car, is that new? Is that new, or in the new version, the explosions?